Hey everyone, welcome. We're talking football today and we've a lot to get through. That's Dan McDonnell opening a can of Fanta. Our football coverage, of course, is sponsored
not by Fanta, to be clear,
by Sky Sports and Sports Extra, where you can watch every live Premier League match this season. So that's every match across Sky Sports, Premier and TNT. And you can get Sky Sports and Sports Extra on Sky or stream them with Now. Welcome, Dan.
Hi, Joe.
A lot of people, when they bump into you now, mention your morning relationship with sugary fizzy drinks.
Yeah, I'm sort of afraid to do it now. Like, you know, I feel now like it needs to be a sort of a secret indulgence, the Fanta now.
Well, you thought it was secret and then you were spotted walking.
Local shop, like it was just so intrusive now.
Meters of your house.
I now drive some distance away just to, you know, put on the hoodie, go into the garage and take it.
Sit in the car and drink it.
As I said, I sent you, like I was in Kosovo recently. I was finishing my tour of the European countries and a hotel minibar fridge had a can of Fanta. I was like, oh, it's a global brand.
And did you like akin to Alan Partridge with chocolate and yourself on the floor?
No, I didn't actually. I didn't
send more Fanta to room 274.
I didn't indulge. I didn't. I just the following day.
Sorry, it was too late at that stage.
Yeah,
it before 10 a.m.
Yeah, no, that's it. Like, I mean, I was like, it's not breakfast time. Obviously, I don't need that lift for the day here. So, yeah. Anyway.
Dear, oh dear. The things that people remember about you. Fanta's now in your top 5. Things happening include Republic of Ireland, Portugal on Thursday in Dublin. Republic of Ireland versus Hungary on Sunday at 2:00.
Yeah.
Not a fan of that. League of Ireland season review reflections. We've a lot to talk about there. FAI versus Israel. Irish under-17s at World Cup and whatever else you're having. I see, by the way, Aviva Ireland has announced a 5-year extension to its naming rights for the Aviva Stadium. So let's start with the international window, which is upon us. So Portugal, 7:45 Thursday, a sellout. Ronaldo's in town. It's going to be a sellout anyway, but I think people may be realising it may be their last chance to see Cristiano. That's part of the story.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I've had a few people in touch with me. Do you know where the Portuguese hotel is? You know, that's a very common question that you get in the media this week from sort of listeners or readers or people who be in correspondence.
Where is it?
I actually don't know. I don't know. There is that. I mean, I think obviously, you know, if it was if you felt like this was, I don't know, you could have the fans outside the hotel at 11:00 at night, like, you know, beeping their car horns, whatever, to, you know, interrupt their sleep. I don't want to create a situation there, but I actually don't know where it is. But it just goes to show the frenzy.
Why don't we want to create that situation? Why are we so nice? This goes back to giving the away fans prime position in the stadium. Why are we not outside the hotel?
Yeah.
Why?
Actually, I will say I was like quite. It's
not a rhetorical question.
I was dismissive of your point about that away section. It was pointed out the other day that the last 5 FAI Cup winners, their fans have been in that end, and there's actually a brilliant noise from it. Like the Rovers fans on Sunday, it was like, oh yeah,
we give them prime location.
I do take your point. I've come around to thinking, you know what, Joe?
Cold showers.
He was onto something there.
Away fans up there.
Yeah, because that's where Ireland have been, and that's where I saw even Rovers in Athens last week and in Prague. They're up in the gods. They're not given like behind the goal sort of premium view.
You know where the Portuguese hotel is. You need to toughen up here, son.
I just feel like in reality it's more likely to be sometimes the team, I'm in danger of, like, you know, I think sometimes some of the teams stay out in one of the hotels in Stillorgan, which is like you have to have a significant drive up the driveway. It's not quite like, you know, you can park outside. I feel like you're not going to get that far if you're planning to do this. But it is the Ronaldo fever, and, you know, you'll have, I mean, you're going to have people trying to get on the pitch again, and I'm sort of torn in the whole thing of, like, I mean, he's a dubious god to idolise in a lot of ways, but equally, I mean, he is also one of the most famous people on the planet. So human nature is to be intrigued by him. I mean, even if he sometimes annoys you, you're talking about being annoyed by him, in which case you are part of the like, even he didn't go to Diogo Jota's funeral because he said he could be too much of a distraction, which I thought initially was a terrible thing. And then equally, you see the way sometimes people behave around them. I'm actually kind of wondering, was it the maddest thing that he said, really? You know, because there is that sort of, people lose the run of themselves around them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
So Evan Ferguson, as people know, is out. People will have seen as well Johnny Kenny's been called into the squad. There are other injury issues we'll get to in a second. Last international window, just to jog memories of where we left off. Lisbon, probably our best performance of the campaign. 91st minute winner from Ruben Neves' header. So, it's very credible. And we were feeling okay about ourselves. But then Armenia at home was our last game, and really it was very poor. They went down to 10 men after 50 minutes. Evan Ferguson scored the winner, the only goal of the game on 70 minutes. We were 5-4-1 out of possession, attempting to be 3-4-3 in possession. We weren't in it very much. First half, no shots on target. It was kind of just a dispiriting reminder that, yes, we can do the backs to the wall thing, but when we have to take the initiative, we're not really able. It must be stressed. Heimir Hallgrímsson set the team up to be defensive first as well. I think without him voicing it, he has come to the conclusion that's just who we are.
Yeah, I mean, he has effectively voiced it. And that's the thing. Ireland didn't try to take the initiative in that game at all, really. So I don't think it was a case of being unable to do it. I don't think they were really instructed to do it. They were set up in such a way. And I think for Heimir, that was almost, that game was very much like, it's like he's declaring, he's that this is what you've got here. To me, it's possibly the game that if the results don't go his way this week will have as much impact in him leaving as Armenia away, as strange as that sounds, because without saying the line about when is Ireland's next meaningful game, the reality is, like, I see the FAI putting out stuff about packages for 2026 and tickets and stuff they need to sell for what is still the main revenue driver in the association is still the men's senior international team. If you're heading into a year without any competitive games beyond Nations League matches later in the year, you need something that's going to stir people to come out and pay and watch, and they're not going to want to watch that. The game is going to be sold out on Thursday, as you mentioned. Look, the games were sold in a 3-game package as well because it's the World Cup qualifiers in a condensed campaign, and there's a desperation for everyone to see that. But when you get into next year, you're going to need to be selling something different, and you ain't going to be selling that. And he said it last week at the squad announcement. He's not going to be a populist. What was his line? Something along the lines of, you can't win a dance competition and be the most beautiful girl on the floor. Something has to be compromised.
That doesn't make sense.
Well, people queried this to me. I think his point was, if you're going to dance at a really high standard, then you're going to have to forget about your looks. Just let yourself go, like a Run DMC sort of video here. Just, you're going to have to throw yourself into it. So
doesn't make sense.
Well, I had a query from the office going, was he saying? No, that's what he said. It did sort of make a little bit of sense,
It doesn't.
Why?
Your prettiness isn't affected by the quality of your dancing.
Yeah, but you might suddenly lose, if you get into the dancing too much, you might lose a little bit of your pristine sheen. This is his point. It's not about how you look, it's about getting the result, We're going to do, I don't know how dance contests are actually judged to that degree, but his point is very much unapologetic now. He's gone beyond. He's not throwing an olive branch here or doing anything like that.
We're going to be ugly.
And that's basically it.
We're going to dance ugly too.
Yeah.
The team, by the way, just to jog memories again of Armenia, was Kelleher. The back three did very well. Jacob Bryan, Nathan Collins, Darragh O'Shea, something going on together. Coleman, it was a real Seamus, we missed you kind of a window. And Ryan Manning. And then midfield, Smallbone, Malumbi, who did okay. Festi, Azaz, and Evan Ferguson. So Ferguson obviously is out. Just on permutations, Hallgrímsson said it's a big advantage, and I guess it is, but we will know in advance of the Portugal game how Hungary get on against Armenia. We won't go through all the permutations. Obviously, Ireland just have to try and do what they can. But there is the dispiriting spectacle on Sunday that if you take the two most likely results, Hungary beat Armenia, Portugal beat Ireland, then Sunday is a dead rubber.
Yeah.
So let's try and avoid that, I suppose. The likelihood is Hungary will beat Armenia. So Ireland need to nick a draw here against Portugal to go into Sunday somewhat alive, and then we'll deal with Sunday when it comes. In terms of the squad announcements, the area of concern is left back because Ryan Manning's suspended for the Portuguese game. Robbie Brady, Callum O'Dowda, Josh Honohan for various reasons. unavailable. Kevin O'Toole has been drafted in. He's 26 years of age. He's uncapped, plays for New York City. Keith Tracy was sort of saying James McLean is staring us in the face. Liam Scales is likely to play though, isn't he? Like, so it's not an ultra crisis. It's not like Kevin O'Toole of New York City FC is going to come in and make his debut against Portugal.
Oh God, that'd be astonishing if he then.
So Scales will play.
Yeah, because it's left wing back. I mean, Scales hasn't played that in a while. He did play it when he was with Rovers. Now, I know, is there other options they could look at to sort of compromise in that position?
Jazz.
Yeah, like I need to. Yeah, I think Scales to me strikes me as the obvious one. But you know, there are probably players who've been versatile at times in their career. But even the likes of, say, if you're going to back five, I mean, there are people like Darragh O'Shea who's played. He's been very flexible in his career. Like you could take him out of that central defensive position, which I think would be a little bit surprising. Like, you know, we've seen at times, like say Matt Doherty has been switched to the left side, and you can play players not on their natural side. Like, I mean, even someone like Festi, I don't know. Like there are other thoughts there, but you would think for the Portugal game, I wasn't at the press yesterday, but there's certainly more questions being asked about Scales, who wasn't involved last month because of a family bereavement. And he was someone who was picked last year in big games, albeit as a sort of more of a centre half, you know. So, look, there could be a variation of some of those names I mentioned, but Scales would strike me as an obvious one. But yeah, it is a strange one Thursday. I'm not going to go back into permutations too much, but the thing is, that Hungary-Armenia game, just for people to know the rhythm of their day, that game was on before the Ireland match starts. So it's not like you're going to be watching the Ireland game and looking at scores from Yerevan. The reality is that before the game kicks off, you may know that Ireland lose and the campaign is over. That's on the basis that if Hungary win. And also, I should say that if Hungary have won, it means that if Ireland draw against Portugal, they need to win by 2 in Budapest. Or if Hungary have won by 2, it's by 3. So really the whole mood of the evening is going to be dictated by the result in Yerevan. And it could well be that at 7:30, all of a sudden there's new life in the ground, because the flip side of that is if Armenia take a result off Hungary, then it is going to the last day. So I think that's just an important point to make, that like the whole shape and tone of the evening could be dictated by something that happens before it. But interestingly, I would say, and I haven't been at the squad announcement, I mean, as you mentioned correctly, like Manning is coming back in, Malumbi comes back in for the second game. Heimir was hoping Evan Ferguson would. That was obviously massively optimistic. But there is a weird thing here of like the second game in Windows has been a problem for Ireland in terms of maybe energy and I kind of wonder, like on Thursday, you have to get a result against Portugal, but then do you do a couple of quirky things in terms of being like very defensive in that game with a view to holding one or two of the players you might think will play back for the Sunday?
Yeah.
Where Sunday could just be one of those weird, 90 minutes, just go for a cup final style. And weirdly, Ireland often play well in those scenarios, So that Hungary result is after. If Hungary win, then unfortunately you would think that the mood on the ground could be quite apprehensive.
Who leads the line?
Yeah, I think Troy Parrott, I would have thought. Yeah, I think he wanted to start the campaign with Troy Parrott leading the line and he couldn't. And then, last month he had to be sort of impact sub. And listening to Heimir, he was almost asked last week, could it be a role reversal between Ferguson and Parrott in this window, that this is when he thought Ferguson might be okay, that Parrott would play and Ferguson would be dropped in.
Yeah.
Adam Ida was obviously, he hasn't been happy at times with his lack of involvement. And again, this is one of those where I think, hang on, Adam Ida has played well for Ireland in the past in this type of game. In fact, he's played specifically, maybe his 2 best games for Ireland were against Portugal.
Yeah.
And I kind of wonder, do you get Adam Ida for Thursday? If you're going to be defending, let's be honest, they're going to be defending sort of everyone behind the ball, but if you want a little bit of an outlet to sort of turn them occasionally, maybe it's Adam Ida, and maybe then you've got a fresh Troy Parrott coming in on Sunday. It has to be one of those two. Yeah,
an interesting dilemma, I suppose, because Troy Parrott's been very, very good for Ireland of late and is technically superior to Adam Ida and will take the ball into feet better. But there is an argument this game is going to be fairly comprehensively backs against the wall. And so Adam Ida, he can hold the ball up okay, but he can also give you more of a running threat in behind.
Yeah.
The problem with Troy Parrott is he doesn't have pace. Not really. And if we want to put some kind of manners on Portugal, then a threat in behind is helpful. Because I think if they have Parrott in Dublin, they'll quickly figure we can squeeze right up here. And I just think maybe realistically we're not going to fizz a ball into Troy Parrott's feet and get up to him quickly enough to keep the ball. So yeah, it's grim. Like, we're so agricultural, but I think there's a fair argument. You know what? When we get the ball back, look for a ball over the top for Adam. Let him run the channels. Try and get a throw in. And that just might be what we're reduced to. And maybe when the game opens up, maybe Parrott comes into it more. But I'd go. Even though I think Parrott's a better player and clearly is technically better, I could see a case for Ida here.
Yeah, and like, it's not crazy to play both of them in a 5-3-2 sort of thing either. Like, you could do that, you know, but because look, the form has sort of been indifferent. Like, Smallbone also isn't available. You meant from the previous team. Azaz has been frustrating. Clearly a very capable player.
He has not played well.
Yeah, he hasn't played well. Like, he played well in March, and then he hasn't played well.
Touches off, gives the ball away.
Yeah.
Just he's not making any impact in these games.
No.
I don't think he can play. I don't think he should play on form.
But the one thing I would say is, as much as Ireland were very defensive against Portugal, I think the reason sometimes, like, the smaller teams can do well against Portugal is sometimes when Ronaldo plays, that they're not aggressively pressing you from the front.
Yeah.
Like, they let you play at times at the back, and they can sort of let you into the game a little bit. And you saw actually in the last 10 minutes in Portugal, when things opened up a little bit, or in stoppage time, and all of a sudden, like, the space, and they're absolutely devastating. And that's why Portugal sometimes, when they're going toe to toe with a top team, they can be thrilling to watch when it's opened up. But sometimes when Ronaldo, and I saw them in the Euros last summer, when they're playing against a sort of an inferior side, and Ronaldo's from the front, they're not actually as hard to play against as you might think. So as a result, there is an element of, well, actually, maybe if you just can be a little bit more technically confident, and you might get a few more chances for your back three to step forward and play a few passes, that maybe, okay, who can be the most effective for making it stick for a minute? So
yeah, well, then it's Troy.
Yeah, so there is.
That's a great point.
There is an element of that they're not
now that you say it, I forget how much comfortable possession we had in Lisbon.
You do get it against them, so it's not quite this like
we can't breathe.
Spain or someone like suffocating you. They just don't do that, and I think that's why Ireland have done well against them.
Well, listen, sorry, I thought an option of one, but you're right. If he can squeeze in two, then all the better.
It's possible. It is possible. Like, I think obviously, you know, you got Josh Cullen, but you have an issue with, like, the defensive midfield shield and how you really manage that. Like, you know, Malumbi did well, because Malumbi is a good disruptor. Like, that's his strongest.
He's good the last window.
Skill. And in Portugal, so all of a sudden now he's come back in, and now he's gone out. So it's hard to be optimistic looking at the squad list, but there are ways in which it wouldn't shock me at all if Ireland were really competitive. As much as I'm quite despondent about the overall picture, I still feel like Ireland would be really competitive in both of these games.
Oh, completely. Like, after the Armenia game, there was this like, well, we're terrible. We've no chance. But, like, the relevance of the Armenia game to these two games, especially Portugal first up, is zero. And we're Lisbon is the relevant game. We kept them scoreless for more than 90 minutes. I'm sure there were 5-6 minutes of added time, half time. So we kept the Portugal scoreless for 95, 96 minutes. We can do it again in Dublin, especially if everyone's buoyed by an Armenia scalp.
Oh yeah, that changes everything.
Yeah,
it does change everything if that does happen. Yeah.
So, well, let's move on, because I don't want to stay in this forever. Give us your. How's Thursday going to go? Do you want me to tell you how it's going to go?
Go on.
Hungary 2-0 against Armenia.
Oh, then it's
And then a heroic 0-0 for Ireland, which means nothing.
Which means
In which case, by the way, I'll be putting Niall Quinn's comments to you. In an ideal world, he was speaking yesterday to the media about fraud. He got scammed. Did you see this?
No, I saw he was doing a gig yesterday, but I haven't seen what.
Doing a gig. That makes it sound like he's, you know, posing back in the day, holding up, I don't know, Weetabix. Other cereals are available. Or Fanta.
Yeah.
You know, in Stephen's Green and getting photos. No, he was like an anti-fraud ambassador. And he was telling a story about how the day after his wife's mother had passed away, I believe.
Right.
She was scammed at her most vulnerable. Pretending to be daughter, needed cash, Can you help
God.
me out? You know, so
Yeah.
he's just be aware how sophisticated they're becoming. Anyway, he was talking about the Ireland situation. In an ideal world, a manager would have a couple of years to find his feet and then you can judge him. So if we can see a couple of positive performances in these games against Portugal and Hungary this week, even if we don't qualify in the end, I'd like to see if we can keep the manager in place. I'm not saying what's going on is perfect. Have we seen enough of him stamping his authority on things? Probably not. But is there someone else who can come in, click their fingers and solve all the problems? I'm not so sure. So
I don't
know if that's a widespread view on this.
I don't think that's going to happen unless other things haven't worked out.
Okay.
You know, so no.
So anyway, sorry, that's your
2-0. So 2-0.
look, I'm just.
But then Ireland need to go win 3-0 in Budapest. That's basically what you're talking about.
Sorry, but if Hungary win 2-0,
Yeah.
and we get a draw, then we have to win 3-0.
Yeah.
But if Hungary win 2-0 and we lose to Portugal, we're out.
Yeah.
What do you think's going to happen?
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. I think I find it hard to call Armenia Hungary. Actually,
Is that in Armenia?
Yes. I know, like that is not like
they're
Hungary.
sticky. They're
Yeah, they
stickies.
are.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to call that a draw.
the main thing about Armenia is that they have something to play for, which is a big thing. Like there is a world where Armenia beat Hungary and Ireland could finish bottom of this group as well. Like this is
good.
This is also a scenario. So you need Armenia to be engaged.
Yeah. Which they are.
I could definitely see Ireland getting a draw out of the game on Thursday in a very sort of sterile sort of draw. But if they're in a situation where it's weird, like where they have to go and get a result. If the Hungary result is if Hungary win 2-0, then you sort of need more than a draw, you know. And then Ireland will get picked off if they have to go and actually go for the game.
Well, I think Hallgrímsson has the experience to know that even if Ireland need to beat Portugal, we're not going to try and beat them in the first 10 minets, fellas. We're sitting back and we'll try and score.
Oh, that will definitely be the
either way, we're not going to go all out.
Yeah.
Did the Aviva Stadium boo Ronaldo the last time? Did we make a kind of
I can't remember. Like,
figure of fun of him?
Do you remember the girl came on the pitch and
She was on the Late Late Show that week.
Yeah. I actually can't recall. I mean,
Can't either.
Honestly, I'm not being sort of. Some of that stuff is just sort of washes over you sometimes. I can't remember. I don't feel like I'm sure there was booze. There's always booze for the occasional sort of pantomime figure. But sorry, people might be screaming out now saying, "Well, of course you don't remember this," but I can't.
No, I don't remember.
I can't really remember that.
Is there anything else you want to mention about all this business before we move on?
No, I think we'll have plenty of time to.
Oh, we will then.
We'll
have about 2 years, I reckon.
Yeah. So no, let's just see how it goes.
Staying with the FAI then in Ireland. FAI versus Israel, I guess, is the kind of on the nose headline. Bohemians initiated this. So the FAI, in effect, are going to make a submission now to UEFA to say Israel should be banned from European club and international competitions. Like I said, proposed by Bohemians. There was an EGM over the weekend before the AGM in Blanchardstown in Dublin. And I mentioned this in Bits and Bobs yesterday. It's not as straightforward as just saying, we don't like what they're doing, therefore get rid of them. You have to play the UEFA handbook a little bit. So there are two technical points in where Bohemians and now by extension the FAI feel they have a case. Number one, and this is the big one in particular, organising clubs, Israel organising clubs in occupied Palestinian territories without the consent of the Palestinian FA. So they feel that's the big one. And the second one is the alleged failure of the Israeli Football Association to enforce effective anti-racism policy. So 74 votes in favour, 7 against. This passed. The people who vote in this, I was just chatting to you earlier on, like it's the football family at large, so it includes League of Ireland clubs with a vote, but the provincial councils have a very big say.
Yeah.
So 74-7, and there were a few abstains as well. We're not setting a precedent here. The Turkish FA in September have called for Israel to be suspended. The Norwegian FA as well have been vociferous in some ways, and they donated profits from the game against Israel to support Doctors Without Borders in Gaza. And of course the UN have made big appeals to FIFA and UEFA of late after their commission of inquiry said that yes, Israel has committed genocide. And then one more for you to throw in, because I kind of want to ask you, what's the reality here, the real feeling here, or is it divided? The FAI president, Paul Cook, did a press conference after the AGM with David Carell, who's the CEO, and he was kind of, what did he say? Look, straight off the bat, if we got Israel in international competition, we would play them. provided it was part of a UEFA competition. We are members of UEFA. He said, we'll just send our note, as in our submission. We'll just send our note and that's it. We've been mandated by our members and that's what we'll do. He declined to give his personal opinion, which he said was irrelevant. And he did say he had contacted the Israeli FA in advance or he would out of courtesy to let them know. So that sort of suggested, or it's been interpreted, I saw Colin Sheridan in the Examiner writing a piece, for instance, as a kind of these are my words, by the way, not Colin's, but like a kind of a wink to the UEFA. That's sorry, wink is the wrong phrase, but just a kind of softening, almost to say, we'll still play them in competition, we'll still play ball here, UEFA, but we have been mandated to submit by all the people who voted. That's pretty fair reading of how Paul Cook sees this. I read it as, I'm not loving this, and we will still play Israel. We've been mandated, so we're doing it, but we'll do that and no more.
Well, I remember being in Paris a couple of years ago when there was a thing about an Irish underage team playing Israel, and Paul Cook was sort of to the side of whoever we were interviewing mainly at the time. Was it maybe Jonathan Hill or Mark Canham or someone? And his initial response was sort of strident along we'd played him. I'm not sure if it came to that scenario that people would be turning to Paul Cook for leadership around it. I think it would be a more layered discussion, I would say.
So do you sense, you can't speak on behalf of David Carell, the CEO, for instance, but do you sense, maybe away from Cook, more enthusiasm within FAI leadership ranks for this motion? How do you
know what, Joe? I actually don't know,
read?
Because I don't think the FAI have confidence when it comes to the communication of anything. Like, I'd say, like, in terms of this motion, like this was club driven. Now the FAI are the face of it, and I don't think you would really want the FAI out there on the international stage being at the centre of something like this, because I don't know how they would personally handle it. Like, I think I personally am very glad that this motion has been brought to the table. The only slight downside is that the main talking point out of the FAI AGM at the weekend has been this. It's worked out very well for them that all the headlines on Sunday out of the FAI AGM, when they're laying off a quarter of their workforce and when they're giving, I wasn't at the AGM myself, but a lot of very unconvincing answers around, for example, something like why they're spending over 200 grand last year on external communications. I think when it comes to how they would handle something like Israel, I'd imagine they'd probably call Teneo or someone and ask them how they should feel and think about it, and pay them probably a lot of money to tell them how they should think. So, I mean, it's great. It's been pitched as the FAI via Israel, but I'd say, deep down, I would say a lot of the FAI people who are out talking about that would be absolutely terrified about being put in a scenario where they would have to expand more on their thoughts. And I think a lot of the people who've probably driven this motion will never speak for the FAI on it. So I don't know what to make of the FAI being portrayed as this figure. I'm glad that the vote went that way from the people on the floor, but I think maybe the spokespeople for it, I don't know how they would handle a broader scenario when they are so trying to play down the extent to which they are so reliant on other people to tell them how they should communicate things like this.
So this has been very much driven by Bohemians, League of Ireland clubs. There was a statement from the Players' Union.
Supporters groups.
Supporters Union in the last month or two. So it's more that grassroots, I suppose, effort to shove it up the FAI agenda, really.
Yeah, and look, the other thing as well is that the FAI are broke and they have Euro 2028 coming down the tracks, and it's for them, it is like the only potential panacea to their problems. They're not going to do anything that makes life uncomfortable for UEFA because they need them.
Okay.
And that is
reality.
That is pure pragmatism, but it's true.
Okay. Let's talk League of Ireland then, season that was. We're at the end of it. FAI Cup final, put a kind of full stop on things, but let's go back to the league for a second, because we didn't really chat to you. It was a strange finale to the league, obviously, in that this was done for a very long time, and then Rovers kept postponing the party.
Yeah.
So, their first double since '87. How good are they is an interesting question. 5 leagues in 6 seasons. You think about the week they've just had, like a draw away to AEK Athens. big institution.
Would have massively rotated. So with a team in the second half that they would never have put. Like, people are making the comparison rightly with Aberdeen, and people say, well, look at the stats in the AEK Athens game. Yeah, but Aberdeen went for the full strength team. Rovers did not do that. Like, it was basically Rovers for full strength defence, and then
Aberdeen were beaten 6-0.
6-0.
Yeah.
6-0.
So it doesn't matter what Aberdeen team were out.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what Rovers team were out. If AEK Athens beat any Aberdeen side 6-0 and then Rovers went there and got a draw, it's really striking. So, like, that's a hell of a week. You complete the double and you get a draw away to AEK Athens in the same week. That really suggests this side are exceptional by Irish club standards. Just looking at the league, it's tough because did they take the foot off the pedal? And if they were in a title race, would they have won more games and lost fewer games? You suspect they would. But say we look at league tallies. 2025 Rovers, 66 points. They lost 8 games, won 19. So 66 points. The previous year, Shelbourne won the league with 63 points. And there was a period in that league campaign where nobody could win for about a month and a half. It was comical. 63 points. The Rovers team of 2023, so 2 years ago, won the league with 72 points versus the 66 at this year. They only lost 4 games as opposed to losing 8 this year. So where would you pitch in the kind of effort of Rovers 2025?
Yeah, see, the one thing I would say about 2023 is that Rovers had a disastrous year in Europe and they were out by the end of July. And as a result, they had full steam ahead to concentrate, and they got 72 points. I think if they weren't in Europe, they weren't in the group stages this year, 66?
Yeah. Which is only 6 points up.
Yeah, they'd definitely be over 70.
Yeah.
You know, so they did, like, you know, they rearranged the game with Shells during the international break, where Pico Lopez was away qualifying for the World Cup. They weren't willing to rearrange that game, I think, until they knew the league was basically
Are they now
done.
So worryingly dominant that they're able to kind of manage the league and will take care of business?
Yeah, I
Things
think
like that, and actually Europe can take extra prominence, as opposed to, fellas, start of every season, push to the pin of our collars, it's the league.
There is an argument, like there is definitely an argument that this could be like the best ever season by an Irish club if they go on to qualify out of the league phase, because I think the context of their season, and this is what damning for everyone else. Like, they basically didn't have a pre-season. They're in the middle of one long season here. Like, they played from December 2023 straight through to December 2024. Did a couple of weeks off, and in February they were playing Mold at that game where Michael Noonan scored. Like, off a 3-week break. The reason a couple of, say, observers or, you know, media or even ex-players like were sort of not tipping Rovers was, personally anyway, I just thought they was going to catch up with them. Like, in the past, clubs that have had a really good, like Stephen Kenny's Dundalk and so on, the year after they've had a bit of a crash. Like, and I think a few of us probably thought that might happen, and instead it's recharged them and refreshed them. And if you think that they've won both the competitions domestically that they've entered, they've qualified for the league phase through a route that no Irish club has ever qualified through before, where there was no Champions route. They won all of their ties to qualify, including beating a team in Portugal, so one of the top 10 leagues in Europe. If they can follow that up by then qualifying out of into the knockout to effectively start the cycle again, it's one of the best ever seasons. Yet it doesn't feel like people out there realise that this is happening. When I say people out there, I mean it hasn't, say, penetrated maybe the wider mainstream, like, I hate those terms, but they're accurate reflection of it, you know, sort of sports discussion in the same way that what Damian Duff Shells did, you know, but they're actually doing things at a really, 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 really high level, but almost so high that it's relative to the competition that it's sort of a given that they're just doing it.
I would say they're even less celebrated than the Dundalk glory years.
They are, yeah. And look, Dundalk 2016 was the year.
Yeah.
They didn't qualify either side of it. They qualified again 4 years later when it was a sort of very different club. Kenny was gone, but like, Rovers have done it 3 and 4 now in the Conference League, and the reality is they're probably going to do no worse than that next year, and maybe push for the Europa League. But there is a sense of like, yeah, you need, like, what is the next storyline for the league now? There needs to be a credible challenger to them to almost highlight how good they are, you know, and there is an element of that.
Great teams and great sports people need rivals.
Yeah. They do. And like, you know, their vulnerability last year made for the best season even in certainly my lifetime, I think, you know, in terms of the vibe around the league. And it's so hard to, you know, maybe all our expectations are raised for like what you should anticipate from a season, and maybe this has just been a very normal.
Yeah.
I don't think, despite the fact that, and again, maybe just it's our own expectations. Like, you know, 2 clubs have qualified for a league phase of a competition. And yet I feel maybe at the end of the year, people aren't going to be going, well, that was a vintage year in the league, because the run-in was quite, you know...
It was anemic. It was over.
Yeah.
But sorry, we didn't forget the run-in. This league season was over after about 10 games. The writing was on the wall for everybody. Pats weren't going well. Shells, I mean, we'll come to Damian, Duff and Shells in a second, but Shells weren't going to be the force they were. This league has been Rovers for almost from minute one, when it became apparent they were in good form. And you can maybe quibble with that and go, oh no, but in week 12 there was that bit of a thing. In reality, it was Rovers. And the last 5-6 games, it's been very strange. This kind of, the party is on hold, a flat ending. Like, that's the reality. I mean, I know you might want to, oh no, you're wrong, but I'm telling you how the perception
No,
is.
I wouldn't disagree with that.
And so, also it's that it's now 5 and 6 years, and it kind of puts the Shells thing into a weird, magical Damian Duff aberration. And so the worry is they keep doing very well in Europe. They're financially well backed anyway, but the European money is, you know, you look at what the rest of the league can aspire to. It's of a different stratosphere. There is a danger here. Bradley stays for the foreseeable as well. There is a real danger here that we're talking about 9 and 10, 10 and 11, 14 out of 15, worst case scenario. That's one of the biggest dangers for the league right now if it becomes Ligue 1 or Bundesliga in terms of competitiveness. Yeah,
no, it's funny because everything you say makes sense in that context. The only thing that I would caution against that is that, and look, I've done a lot of stuff around it. I wouldn't say it's the best run club in the country, but there's a lot of heavy lifting being done by the fact that the staff are so successful. And if Stephen Bradley decided to leave for a new challenge, which will happen at some stage, I don't know if it's going to be the one that people might think might come up on the short term. I don't know if that's going to be him, to be honest, the Ireland job. But if he did walk away, I don't think, you talk to people about their academy, what they have at the moment, they have a really good, like, big story for them this year is definitely the likes of, say, Corey O'Sullivan, who was trusted to play in the cup final on Sunday. Slowly but surely, they have these like homegrown 18, 19-year-olds around that are of a level, and that's like, wow. But I don't think you go down the ages that people think, you know, Rovers is thriving, and other clubs are spending and getting their house in order in those departments in such a way that, like, I think if Rovers had another good European year, if someone could be better, they could catch them. Okay. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's that much of a given, but equally, like, it's a really valid concern to raise because it is a scenario that's plausible. And obviously the scary scenario of people would be that if they really got their house in order off the park in terms of just everyone rowing in the same direction and a real clear purpose.
Talking there about the acrimony at board.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's anything to do with this, but I might have been picked on. But even like Stephen Bradley in the press conference on Sunday after the game is talking about how things didn't go well in the hotel earlier in the day, and I don't know what he's getting at. I'm not sure, but he's like, that was on us as a club, and I'm not sure what he's getting at. But there is a sense of that they can't just rest on their laurels there too easily. And I do think that there are other clubs, like, they're not being backed in a way that's probably sustainable, in the sense that there are people who are just willing to lose money. But I don't think they're and the other thing I would say is that the Rovers is getting older in certain departments, and I think you speak to people who really know the vibe of the place. They have a big winter ahead still in certain, like Rory Gaffney's like fantastic, their best player in the cup final. He's 36. You know, you go back to Pico Lopez next summer is going to be at the World Cup, which is brilliant. He's going to be gone for a month of the season. He's so important to them. And, you know, Josh Honahan's going to leave. He's going to go to a club in England over the winter. So, like, it's not just a complete given, but equally, you know, it's the most likely scenario next year. The years after, not necessarily a cert. Yeah.
Well, you know, odds are against that kind of domination. It's just an interesting question to
it is. I know it's that should be focused in the minds of every other club. It's like, well, what? I mean, they're probably going to make the group stages next year.
Yeah.
So how do you have to stop them winning the league? It's just, you know, to stop that.
Yeah. I guess as well, when the sums involved aren't so extraordinary, like wealthy backers can make a big difference as well, you know. So they shouldn't be uncatchable. It's interesting though. 5 and 6 years is serious domination.
Yeah, I think the fear would be is that they weren't terrifyingly good in the league this year. I feel like they hit a level around August. The Santa Clara games, I thought they were just motoring then. And I've made this point before, the analogy, I felt like the treadmill was running and then they just stopped it suddenly and they haven't been able to get it going. When they won the league, they almost won the league too early and then they had this weird limbo. Yeah.
To be fair to them, that sounded like some kind of a Rovers bad for the league kind of a premise. They are the exemplars. It's up to everybody else to catch them.
It is.
They're setting the standards. They are to be celebrated for what they're doing. You know, it's amazing. One of the things you wanted to mention about the league season that was, and this has been the case for a while now, it's a young players league and has been for a while, increasingly a technical league, but because of the Brexit situation, we are starting to see those really bright talents in Irish football getting their head.
Yeah, I think seeing Mason Melia this year has been great. Just watch him improve across the season, and now he's heading on to to Spurs like Owen Elding and Sligo Rovers. He was over at Storm Graz last week, and I don't know where he's going to go, but he's going to go to a good level for good money. We're going to have Victor Ojenvuna next year, before he goes to Arsenal. We're going to have Michael Noonan. I think maybe this under-17s World Cup will help in terms of that connectedness, in the sense that people might get to hopefully know more of these players if they go further in this competition, and then realise, well, actually so many of these are in the league. And to me, the thing is, what is the next, what is the next step for the league? Because I think it's widely acknowledged that there's been big improvements across the last decade, and all the metrics from attendances to, I suppose, interest levels or however you measure it. But obviously there's always a danger of a plateau, and that's what people have spoken about. I think you've probably seen it in probably the crowds this year, that in some cases, the stadiums just aren't any bigger and there's no variance because they've hit their threshold. In others, even you could argue Rovers, there's a sense of complacency has kicked in, because they're not necessarily, this isn't a game we must go to, because it'll be fine. The young players is an angle. It's a selling point. It is no longer a case of, you are seeing the future of the Irish international team in the league.
Yeah.
You were just seeing, you can't deny. I did some stuff around the cup final the weekend, going back to the double winning team of '87, and reading the coverage around we were just about to head into the golden years of international football, which is also heading into the years of peak irrelevance probably for the league, and has created this situation, this distance, which is it's massively unhealthy and not, it has caught up with us post Brexit, in the sense that if you want big nights at international level, this league has to be better. It just has to be better. There's no option here. There's no way of outsourcing this anymore. It's hard to make that point sometimes without always having this sort of wider existential, what do we do about it, how do we make it better, sort of preaching at people, getting frustrated at times, as I would, with, oh God, it's been really subdued in the run, and just that coverage last year was brilliant, and now it's slipping out of that sort of day-to-day discussion, and the Duff factor was obviously massive in that, but it is important, it is linked, and I think maybe the younger players and all of that is one of the bright spots that we can point to.
Yeah.
The wider stadiums and the infrastructure and what's there still needs to be a lot better, and is going to hold. I think the league has got to a level now, which is great, which is it's gone, it's unrecognisable probably from where it was a decade ago, but I think it's reached a point where big things need to happen for it to get any better from here.
Yeah, okay. A disappointment this season have been Pats, Stephen Kenny's Pats. First time in his managerial career missing it in Europe.
Since he's become a Premier Division manager. I was when he finished the season, if he wasn't, didn't leave halfway through it, but yeah.
Okay. So they were being hotly tipped given how they finished last season. And to not make top four is massive underachievement by the standards they would have set for themselves as well.
They are one of
hammering them.
Gareth Gallagher has put millions of his money into that club. Yeah. There's just no getting away from that.
So what went wrong this year, in a nutshell?
I think they had a brilliant finish to last year. They won 9 games in a row. They beat every team in the country on the run-in. And I think that probably lulled Kenny into a little bit of a false sense of security that this squad, who in recent seasons have been sort of, they've won a couple of cups, but then they go missing at the start of the league season. The leagues are often won in April, May when you have this. We have a crazy. One of the things that's badly wrong with the league is the schedule is completely top loaded towards the start of the year. You play 2/3 of the league games before the summer, and
that also kills the running.
It does. You have all these Friday nights all the way through to May, and then there's now European success is a product that they need to redo the season. Like, this is something that needs to happen as part of the next step. You lose that momentum, but Pats in that April, May when you've got like 10 games, they're just not consistent enough. The league winning teams are consistent. And I think Kenny probably, he thought that some players he could maybe be the answer to make them more consistent than they'd been before. And he hasn't been that man. And I agree, that has to be a reflection of his own abilities as well. So he hasn't been able to get it out of them either.
Is he, how trigger happy is Kelleher? Is Stephen Kenny looking over his shoulder here?
No. I think if you commit to giving someone a 5-year deal, and probably the best contract that, say, a League of Ireland manager has ever signed in terms of basic. Anyway, I think the bonuses that Stephen Bradley, would be collecting would be very, very substantial now. But I don't think you can get impatient at this point.
Sorry, the other side of that coin is I'm giving this guy an unbelievable contract.
It is, but I think this is early in it. I think.
How is it early? 2 years?
Well,
we're halfway through.
It's 18 months into it. So it's 18 months into it, a 5.5 year deal.
2 seasons though.
Yeah, no, I take your point.
Okay, so how by next May, we're halfway through.
I think the point would be, I'm not being too defensive of it here, because I think he's going to be under serious pressure next season. What I'm saying is, he had a brilliant run to last season his first year went well.
Yeah.
This year has not gone well. It's gone as badly as it could have gone by expectations, and he trusted a lot of the players. He retained them. I think you have to give him this window to maybe weed out the players you need to move on, bring in the players you've alluded to that you need to bring in. If that doesn't work out, then he's this time next year. If we're here and he's had a similar season, or even if they've made Europe, haven't got any closer, then I think he's going to be under massive pressure. He's earned this winter. He's earned this winter. Then after that, he comes under pressure.
When I said looking over his shoulder,
yeah.
I absolutely meant into next season.
Yeah.
There's no chance of anything happening now, and that would be unfair. But I was getting at another season like this.
Another season like this, there'll be massive questions, and I think Garrett Kelleher, he will be asking those questions. There's absolutely no doubt about that. They've been a disappointment this year. I think look, Shells and Derry City finished second and third and ended up having a bit of a gap to fourth. And they probably are the two clubs you would think would be the most likely to mount the challenge, but Pats should be. They should be.
You mentioned Shells there, so I guess Damian Duff is the before and after moment in this season, isn't he? It feels like a long time ago now since he
last week of June
walked away. Last week of June,
I think it was. Yeah, last week of June, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, is it? I remember you'd been in here.
Yeah.
The week before, I was like, he seems really off, but I didn't think by Monday. And then I remember you'd been in, and the seismic shock it was for the league, and even amidst the sugar rush of the story that Monday, there was a great sense of this is so bad for the league, and so approved. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah, and look, I think there's.
There's nothing against Joey O'Brien, by the way. He's done really well.
Joey O'Brien's done brilliantly. Yeah, no, there's two sides to it. I mean, football wise, Shells have been better in the second half of the season, and
in a way, Duff's been vindicated. His decision has been vindicated.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, and I think I think he would probably accept that. I think, but and they've been comically unlucky in their 2 games in Europe. They're going to end up probably finishing towards the bottom of that table, and they could really be qualified by now. It's actually crazy, the sort of man stepping on rake aspect of their group stage campaign. I've never seen anything like it back to back. But and I would have got some stick, I suppose, from people around the league. I would have made the point afterwards, this is really bad for the league. And I understand the point that people would make in response. They would say, well, look, the stadiums are still full. The stadiums weren't filled because of Damian Duff. That is true, in sense of, apart from Shells, the league within its own world is still doing well, and I'm sort of immersed in it, and the debates and discussions around it between, we mightn't necessarily get through them all, but there's storylines around Bows this year and Cork City's sort of crisis and what's going on, and I've certainly seen an upturn in that, and look, within the league's sort of microclimate between it's fine, but that Duff thing gave a taste of getting outside it. And I have certainly noticed that difference subsequently, that it's just, and sometimes people say, well, that's just your media world. You're not getting as many clicks and hits or whatever. But I still feel it's important to have a place in that national discussion, that when you're doing your more general, dare I say it, like your bits and bobs or something, that you just can't avoid talking about something that's happened at the weekend, because and that's what Duff brought to the table.
It's what people are talking about.
And without that, like you do miss it, and equally, you could flip around and say, well, look, are people that fickle that a lot of people last year would have said, geez, it's great for the League of Ireland, it's great to be engaged in the League of Ireland, and then someone like that goes and almost slip back into their old habits of the comfort blanket of, well, yeah, actually I'm pretty happy with my sporting interests being the way that they are, and we know that if football is to be better in this country, like it needs to be, there's that balance between it needs to be there more, but equally you need to have the storylines that energize people.
Well, of course it does, because people in the league would often strongly argue it's not about the standard. And I accept that. I accept the appeal of it is not about the standard, because if it was, they'd stay at home and watch Premier League all day.
Yeah.
So it's about the community aspect, it's about going to live sport, and it's about the soap opera.
Yeah.
It's why there's a podcast, talking about sport, here and everywhere else, 5 days a week, 7 days a week. It's because we're talking about it in soap opera terms. He said this, they said that. Damian Duff.
Yeah.
He has main character energy. So, of course it's a loss. Anyone who doesn't think it's a big, big loss, or the league's better off without him, it's like willful kind of curmudgeon.
That is completely wrong. And to me, maybe the glass half full aspect of it, it shows to people that, well, look, if you have storylines that are capable of generating that interest, people can come with it. But that's a very high bar as well, too. Like the Duff story was maybe just a moment, this moment in time. It was just perfect, really, the arc of it and how it was managed. Like it's a very easy documentary for someone to package, because there's a beginning and an end, But there is a sense of what is the next 5 years for me, and that is what I'm looking at. Where it's like, right, you do need big characters,
especially if Bradley goes.
You need characters and personalities. You need them. Like one of the strengths of the league definitely is that people are generally quite open within it, and there are storylines there. Like you have the Virgin deal this year was a big change. That you suddenly have a game on every Friday. It's just a shame probably for them that they didn't have the title run in.
Yeah.
I think it started off very well in that respect, and then look, on the way in it was probably difficult, but you do need personalities and characters that can step outside it. And I would hope, like the thing is that if someone if Duff ends up in the Ireland discussion, that maybe there is other ex-players and people who realise coming back here is something that can be good for you, but good for the league as a whole.
Well, if Duff gets it, then it's 2 out of 3 managers have come from the league.
Yeah,
so it's
you need that link.
Viable career path.
You need that link. Yeah.
We can't get to everything, obviously, from the season that was, and we won't. But given that Cork City were in the FAI Cup final, and I chatted to Damian Delaney yesterday just about the situation there, and it's been a contentious situation. So Damian, in his own words, is kind of a sounding board for Dermot Usher. Dermot Usher took the club over from a fan-owned group in December of 22. Cork City have had their fair share of new ownerships and boomer bust cycles. Dermot Usher's come in since 22. Damian is, like I said, a sounding board, unofficial capacity, not on any kind of board as such, to the extent that there is a board. But it's been a contentious year for them. They've been relegated. The price of tickets and how that was communicated didn't go down well. There have been protests. There's that tribal aspect too, whereby even at the protests you see signs saying things like "End Kildare rule in Cork." Damian yesterday acknowledged communication has been an issue, seemed to suggest an awareness that Dermot is almost learning on the job, but is learning with good intentions, made his money himself, is not making money out of this venture, was his sense, is very much putting money in. And he feels on the pitch a little bit unlucky this season. They maybe went a bit top heavy in terms of attacking players, and there were injuries or players missing for big quotients of the season. They shouldn't really have gone down, but they've gone down, and there's a general unhappiness. That's kind of his summary. But like a sense of, we're going to come back up is the feeling, and you know, this will be put right eventually. But the natives are restless, and that anti-Usher feeling is very real down in Cork. How justified is it?
Oh, it's a strong feeling. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a club that's been like, if you're talking about the problems with the league at the moment, the domination, like, Cork City should be a powerhouse within the league in terms of the crowds they can generate, in terms of the catchment they have, in terms of the quality of young players that they have. Like, they could easily be a rival to Shamrock Rovers. They have a lot of the conditions that you would need, and yet they're a yo-yo club. You know, they've won a double in 2017, and have they been relegated 3 times since. Like, I think they, you know, so they, you know, it's a bit of a basket case scenario. I think, like, I know Darragh. I've met him a couple of times. I'm not going to claim to know him well. I do believe he went in there, has gone in there with intentions to do a good job, you know. And I would say, you speak to people who are probably neutral enough on things down there, they would point out he's putting in a lot of his own money. He's not loading debt onto the club, you know. And other owners of clubs in the past have left. I don't think he's going to be like that, but you have to sort of know the environment you're going into. I don't think he's played it smart at all. I think there'll be multiple issues that people would raise, not just the ticket price thing. And as Damian pointed out, the communication could have been better.
Why was the communication so bad then?
Well, I mean, there was an interview at the start of the season to the Currency where he sort of spoke quite dismissively about, say, the casual fans who only come I can't think of a specific term, like almost like the fly-by-nights, but that wasn't the term, but it's something like that. But that's, if you're in Cork, you know, you will know that there's a massive volatility between the fan bases there in Cork. You know, when the Cork City are going well, you know, they'll have massive support, but they'll go, and they might go and follow the hurlers or, you know, the Cork footballers or something. Yeah. That casual fan base is part of your success, is part of your strength. If they're looking at suddenly 25 per game to go, they're less likely to come in. And there was kid tickets priced that were priced badly as well. That was the thing that came back to me, that if you're looking to bring a couple of your kids to a game, or your kids and their friends or whatever, you're suddenly looking at a very expensive night. But they were almost being spoken about as though
we don't owe you anything.
There was a meeting with fans before the season as well, where they spoke about how a certain ticket package will be offered, like a 5-game package. I think the goalpost moved on that, so the communication wasn't good with that. And there is an element of, like, pride before the fall with some of this stuff that, you know, I think Dermot has jostled with a couple of, say, the local sort of fan, you know, podcasts and stuff down there who have been quite critical of him. But again, you're never going to win that contest.
When you say jostled, am I right in thinking they were banned from games, or weren't
yeah,
they?
Yeah.
Accreditation.
Doing interviews and stuff, I think, as well, with the women's team, and just things that, like, I would describe it as needless, even if they are being harsh on you. It's just not,
but
you know.
You got to box clever. They're one, they really care about the club, hence
yes.
They're giving up their time to do a podcast, which is, you know, in kind of national terms niche. You wrap your arms around them. Even if you think behind the scenes, I hate this guy, I hate these guys.
Yeah.
You bring them in, you give them interviews every 2 months in the boardroom, and you make them allies. You don't alienate them.
Yeah, and I'm sure Dermot would say, well, there's things that have been said there that would cross the line.
But sorry, the minute you get involved in football, I don't know Dermot Usher at all. The minute you get involved in football, put on that thick skin.
Listen, I would come down on that side. I think he's played that completely wrong. Yeah. That would be my opinion. But that has meant that there's, like,
that's the learning on the job.
There's a section of, well, I don't know if Damon would agree with that, but I think there's, like, there will be sections of the fan base that I'm not sure he's ever going to possibly, you know, win them back. Yeah. And you know, I think as well, like, they've spent money, like, in the off seasons. They've not recruited well enough, and then mid season they're sort of, you know, they're sort of throwing money after a problem after the fact. Okay. It's layered. There's nuances to this.
That doesn't feel very strategic. It's a bit of panic then after the horses bolted.
Yeah, and that's, you know, a couple of years ago that really hurt them when he had Liam Buckley as the sporting director, who then became the manager, and that season was just a mess, you know. And I just I do feel, and I'll probably annoy the Cork City fans, I do feel sympathy for Dermot sometimes, that I feel sometimes he's in a no-win situation. I sometimes get sort of sent, you know, rumours about various things and mistakes that made that aren't true. He's in that place where he can't.
What do you read into picking out the fact he's from Kildare?
I think there is a little bit of that sometimes that he is. But I think, there was a couple of fundraisers that he held. I think was there one in the Golf Classic in the K Club or something, and it's very much like, well, our identity is we are,
Work.
we have a massive area around us here. I think Dermot's thing would be, well, he's been, he knows how to generate money in different ways, and it's just not quite the done thing in football, some of it. I just don't think he's played it clever, and
Okay.
there's layers to this. I mean, I feel even as I speak here, I'm going to be accused of being too protective of him. I'm not being that. I don't think it's gone well for him at all, and I think he's said some stupid things. And I think when you end up in a situation where you're in conflict with the people, as you say, who are the main hardcore fans, you just have to be willing to. You have to somehow start from scratch again and hold your hands up and go, I got this wrong, I got that wrong. And get people on side, because if he is planning to stay, as Damian alluded to, I don't think that sort of people management side of things is going to get better for him unless he's prepared to swallow pride on certain things.
Okay, we really got to wrap up.
Yeah.
Just very briefly, it was in the news yesterday that Chris Clinton at Dundalk has acquired John Temple's stake after some mediation, so he's taken the 65%. He's now in discussions with the FAI around their Premier Division licence. The pitch at Oriel Park, floodlights are problematic. I see there's legal action been launched by the kit supplier who claimed they're owed six-figure sum.
Yeah.
They have no manager. So the Chris Clinton versus John Temple, the Americans versus John Temple chapter of the saga is over. But guess what? The chapters on the next page are just as bumpy, it would seem.
There is probably a book in like Dundalk and Cork City in the last 15 years, because if you think about it, they played we had a cup final weekend. They were in the cup final like 4 years in a row, 15, 16, 17, 18. And since then, I mean, both clubs have had multiple owners. I think the Dundalk went to like 5 or 6 in like 7 years. Yeah. Massive similarities in the sense that they're both in this yo-yo. Like, one of the things in the league at the moment, generally, not to go away from the point, I feel the problem is it's an 11-team league at the moment across the entire 2 divisions. You have 10 full-time teams in the top flight. The team that finishes bottom goes down and they come back up the next year. And now, like, Dundalk and Cork City could easily swap. Yeah. Like, Dundalk went down last year, come straight back up. Cork City went to go straight back, and it's a weird one. And there are 2 clubs where there's massive local demands and expectations, but they just can't get it right off the field, and it's always volatile. Yeah. It's always fraught. The storylines around them are extraordinary. They're very local, but they often break into the national cycle because they've been so slapstick in both cases. And that Dundalk one, they are again looking for new investment to go with these people. We'll just see. I feel like I think they're in a better place now with some of the changes that have been made, because it wasn't going to work out with what was there at the end of the season, but it's still a very uncertain future. Very good. Enjoy Thursday. Enjoy hopefully meaningful fixture on Sunday, and we will reconvene. Dan McDonnell, thanks. Thank you, Joe.